In 1941, hundreds of African American men descended onto the small town of Tuskegee, Alabama, in order to take advantage of a new program that trained African American men to be pilots. These men went on to exceed all expectations and earn distinguished honors as pilots and as servicemen. Their success did not come easily, but their tenacity proved to be the characteristic that contributed most greatly to their success and opened the doors of opportunity for future generations of African American aviators and soldiers. The Tuskegee program wasn't expected to be successful. At the time, in the early 1940s, the military was still segregated. African Americans were believed to not be intelligent enough to understand the sophisticated aviation equipment and were not permitted to fly airplanes. After black newspapers and the NAACP argued that African Americans should be included in the civilian pilot training program, the armed forces begrudgingly created a pilot program in Tuskegee to train African Americans. 996 men in all were trained to be pilots. Despite the low expectations and despite the racist oppression, after their training program, they were deployed to Europe at the height of World War II, where they flew over 15,000 attack missions over a 2-year period. They destroyed 36 German planes in the air, 237 planes on the ground, nearly 1,000 transport vehicles, and a German destroyer. The Tuskegee Airmen received 3 Distinguished Unit citations, and 95 individual airmen received Distinguished Flying Crosses, not to mention 14 Bronze Stars and 8 Purple Hearts. Although their military record was illustrious, back in the United States, they were still treated as second-class citizens. Their bravery and patriotism took a back seat to the racism that was standard at the time. But these men didn't back down, nor did they cower. They demanded respect and equality every step of the way, even when they knew it wasn't forthcoming. And in 1948, President Harry Truman signed an executive order that ended segregation in the military. These men, these Tuskegee Airmen, were daring warriors in the air, leading troops to victory against the Axis powers in Europe during World War II. But their courage on the ground, their leadership and tenacity against all odds, is why these men are still revered now in the 21st century. They were pioneers in the civil rights movement, and for that, we will continue to honor their legacy.